Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to be talking about digital teams and how they work to deliver change. And I'm delighted to have with us Craig Barker, Digital and Website Improvement Officer for Cumbria County Council. Hello Craig.
Hi Lindley. Hi everyone listening.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Craig?
Sure. So I'm a Digital and Website Improvement Officer at Cumbria County Council. I joined the organisation in 2014, joined as an applications and data engineer for the ICT department. Within that role, I was responsible for maintaining the core infrastructure applications, HR, IT service management tools. In 2018, I moved into the digital team, which is where I currently sit.
Oh, well, thank you for that background. So today we're going to talk about digital and about how your team works.
That's right.
Let's get right on. I think our first point is that digital teams have a different agenda. Would you like to say something about this, Craig?
Sure. So when I was in IT have a big infrastructure remit, and that's the priority for them. They want to keep the organisation running. In digital, we are focused on the customers and providing good customer service. Our customers have increasingly high standards of what good service is, and that's based on the growth of digital in their daily lives. So we need to constantly change to meet their needs.
And I would think that that change is quite difficult to cope with.
It can be, but we use agile development methodologies to iteratively improve services.
And you've had to upskill your team.
That's right. So we're using a low-code platform, but traditionally where we'd have BAs, systems analysts, development, testers, and so on, we find that our team can do more of each other's jobs. So we have builders that can do service redesign work. We have BAs that can build. And this helps us all around because everybody in the team has a better understanding of the common goal.
Brilliant. Craig, when we've been talking about change in Cumbria, we've been talking about more than just digital. We've been talking about changing behaviours and changing processes. And you've been telling us about how processes were siloed because backends were siloed. And now you've needed to join up those processes. And you've had to encourage the teams to solve problems. Do you want to give us some insight into the work that you've been doing with departments?
Of course. So that's right. Traditionally, there's a lot of silos. And breaking down those barriers, creating multidisciplinary teams when we're working, and sharing our data helps us to solve these big common problems. We've been helping our teams to innovate, and they can come to us with ideas. And this is really useful because the teams often know exactly where their sticking points are, where the bottlenecks are in existing processes. We're not coming in as the gods, we're coming in to work with them in multidisciplinary teams. So we pull people together from different departments and our own team and get all the right people around the table first. That helps us identify the process first. And then we think about the technology second.
So it's a case of getting your processes right and making sure that
Absolutely.
You innovate as much as possible in that process.
Yes, there's excellent scope for improvement, but we want to get the process right first and then use technology as an enabler to deliver that process.
And then you're responding dynamically to the changes as you're moving, because as you mentioned earlier, you're working in an agile way.
Correct. So we typically work in a 2-week sprint on a project piece of work. At the end of that 2-week sprint, we'll review what has been completed, but also what's in scope for the next sprint.
Agile and digital are partners. You can do digital in a conventional way, but it is more difficult, I think, from what you've said to me, Craig.
I think so. Certainly in other organisations I've worked in, they've tried to accomplish transformation, but in a more waterfall development methodology. We would go out to a business team or a customer and try to work out what it was they needed or wanted and spend 12 weeks building and then come back and deliver a change. And often that was met with resistance. Agile helps break down those barriers. The digital team work collaboratively with the user teams throughout the organisation. Everybody's empowered at a much earlier stage in the project, and that helps remove any resistance or helps give the business team a sense of ownership.
So if we just pick up on some of these points, each department goes on its own journey. So although the process is similar, it's not prescribed. The department can flex as it needs to for its own processes.
Of course. Yes, it's very important that we allow the department to work in the best way for that department. But considering the sort of global objectives as well, where data should be open and some processes may be similar to help cross-skilling of staff in wider service areas.
You work with both the users, your staff, and your customers. You were speaking about how you try to really understand what customers need.
That's right. In that particular service, the business users didn't think the customers would be interested. But after engaging with the customers, we found that we had an 85% increase in digital take-up from those customers.
That's a big increase.
Dramatic, really, really impressive. It saved us a lot of money and it's improved the process. So we're very happy.
Excellent. So we're going to talk a little bit about iterative change now. And I think some of our listeners are not really sure what Agile is. So would you mind talking them through a typical project and how you would make that change?
Sure. So we tend to focus on one big project at a time. There's always some little satellite projects that are churning on in the background, almost like business as usual. But when we're focusing on one big project, we get as many relevant people around the table for a kickoff as we can. And that's not just the service managers. We want expert users of the existing system, people that really know their stuff. We also match that with representatives from digital, our BAs, our builders, technical representatives, and content writers, depending on what we're looking to build. And that helps us define the scope. So this is the first gradient we're climbing, where we're working out what it is we're going to deliver in the first sprint and overall objectives of the project, what's going to make it a success. Feeding into these first discussions, ideally we'll have some customer surveys and potentially a customer user group. We've done some work with the Blind Society, for instance, where they've provided representatives to us to help scoping of the project. And then we go into this first loop. This first loop typically covers a couple of weeks, and that's our sprint. The start of the loop, we will define what's in scope for this deliverable. And at the end of those 2 weeks, we have something tangible that the business users and potentially the customers can feed back on. We keep going around until have launched a product, but it doesn't stop there. Once the product's launched, that project is moved into sort of business as usual stage, and we'll continue to receive feedback from the team, continue to adapt and continue to improve while focusing on our next project.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that explanation. I think understanding that each of your loops is, say, 2 weeks, but you're going around and showing your users what's happening, they're helping you, and then you're iterating again. So how many loops would you feel a project takes?
Typically 4 to 5. I think most projects sit at 12 weeks max.
Okay, so in 12 weeks, you're doing your process problem understanding, you're looking for some innovation, and then in 2-week bursts, you're building and iterating.
That's right.
Thank you, Craig. We've been speaking about low code and digital, and from your experience, I know that you feel they're perfect partners. I was wondering if you could talk us through how your team works and why you think low code fits so well with digital.
Well, if I refer back to the earlier slide where we're talking about defining the objectives of a new project or a piece of change work, low code enables us to actually build in front of our users. If we're talking about a process, we can quickly process map that process and show how it would impact on the product that we're developing for them.
Sorry, Craig. So you actually are building in front of your users while they're watching you build?
Yeah, definitely. This really helps to visualize what it is we're trying to deliver. And it helps them articulate to us as well where we might not have picked up their demands or their requirements as they need them.
So this is not you going into a back room somewhere and then popping out with something complete. This is you as a group and a team working together. Is this right? Should it be like this? Should it be like almost like a cooking class?
Almost like a cooking class, yeah.
That's amazing.
We're all together. We're in the same place. We're sharing. We're open. And we're working together.
That is absolutely amazing. And has that changed the roles of your team?
Our team members have become a lot more multidisciplinary in their own role. People that were typically just builders are also customer engaging now, doing customer research and engaging with the business, helping out with service redesign, and vice versa. Our BAs, our systems analysts that would typically engage with the users and the business users are doing this building work in front of the business. They're not collating information in a spec and then passing it over to a builder. So you can see there that there's already efficiencies, but also information isn't being lost in translation.
And that must be quite empowering so that the business user feels that they're part of the team and your BA doesn't have to translate that and have somebody say, no, well, that's not quite right, or I didn't really like that.
Of course. Yeah, that's right. They feel as much a part of the team as we are. Or we hope they do.
Excellent. So I wonder, we've talked a lot about low code and digital, and you've got 4 points in summary that you feel that your team has benefited from low code.
Sure. So yeah, just looking at those points, I haven't really talked about the iterative change and how that impacts on low code. So low code enables continuous change at low cost, and that's because it's very quick for us to react to an external change in the system. We can easily identify what the problem is, or what a solution is to a new change, and implement that, get it in front of the business team to test quickly, and then promote it to live. We don't need to capture a lot of paperwork, then pass through to a build team who then makes the change and then passes it back to a BA who then goes and engages with the business. Because we've got these multidisciplinary teams where we're trying to deliver this all together, it's very collaborative, and low code just allows us to get in, make the change, test it, go through our governance, and then promote it into a live environment very quickly.
Excellent. So a bit synergistic as well, because people will have ideas and bounce off each other, and because it's in real time, it happens faster.
That's right, yes.
You've said several times that business and systems analysts are building together. The roles are less defined and more multidisciplinary, as you've spoken about. And then this point about business teams having ownership and being part of the development. Could you just discuss a little bit more for us about why that's become important at Cumbria?
Sure. So in the past, I've worked with teams where we'd started to get a reputation for not delivering anything. We felt that was probably because the business teams didn't have a sense of ownership. And the reason they didn't have a sense of ownership was because perhaps a spec had been written and it wasn't picked up until several months later. Then it was built in the build teams and eventually delivered. Personnel might have changed in that time and needs might have changed in that time. Because we're working with the business so closely and collaboratively, giving them a lot of control, then they have that ownership early on. And we are seeing that we're not seeing resistance to delivery of projects like we might have used to have done, which of course is enabling this sort of culture change. This digital process is spreading organically through the organisation, through word of mouth, and more business teams want to be involved because they can see what low code has delivered for teams elsewhere in the organisation. So now change isn't seen as much of a problem for the organisation. There's teams that are sitting there thinking, we've desperately wanted to achieve change and we didn't know how to do it before, and now that we've got a digital team that can help us on that journey.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. So we all know that change is inevitable. The cuts to funding mean things have to be done differently, regulations and guidance changes, and people change. So it's good to hear that you feel that your team have got a tool that you can use to make those changes and at low cost.
Absolutely. We're very pleased with this tool.
Craig, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. You've given us lots of insight into the way that you work and the way that it's helping your business teams on the ground at Cumbria. We may have lots of questions from the audience. Would you be comfortable if they got in contact?
Sure. Yeah. Ping me an email. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Super. Craig, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Lynley.
And you have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye now.